us continuing on.
Marines have always been there to take the forefront, be the tip of the spear.
To wear the title of Marine is probably going to be the proudest thing that I'll ever do in my life.
My buddy next to me, I'm going to be there for him, and he's going to be there for me.
Welcome back. You and I just took a look at some scenes from a recruiting video for our United States Marine Corps. As we take a look back to this day in history, November 10th, 1775, we celebrate the creation of the Corps. The United States Marines have been on guard ever since. We say thank you to those who have proudly donned the Marine uniform and say happy birthday and Semper Fi. Now, history is honoring veterans with a new docuseries called The Warfighters, and we have a preview of that series right now.
You want to go to the fight and want to make a difference.
Your brothers are the most important thing, the guys on the left and right of you.
War is violent. Once you've experienced that, it's always there.
Everybody was there for one goal, to come home feeling like we had changed something.
For more, we welcome in the executive producer of the new History Channel series, The Warfighters, Peter Berg. Peter joins us from Newsmax New York, and likewise at Newsmax New York, former Army Ranger and producer Michael Baumgarten. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time tonight on Newsmax Prime. Now, The Warfighters features first-person accounts of recent special forces missions in the War on Terror. Peter, how were you able to find the veterans to talk about this? Were there people you perhaps already knew?
Well, you know, when I did the film Lone Survivor, I was fortunate to meet Marcus Luttrell and guys like Mike, who's on with me today, and several other members of the special operations community. And getting to know those guys, I got to hear a lot of stories, and I became convinced that there was a great opportunity. And when they came to me and actually suggested that we do a show in which we retell many of these incredible stories from both Iraq and Afghanistan, I asked them if they did they have the shows, did they have some ideas, and they just kind of looked at me and smiled, and they said, oh yeah, we have plenty of ideas. And as you'll soon see with the first 8 episodes of Warfighters, they have some really strong and emotional and very, very compelling ideas.
Mike Baumgarten, you have a unique role as a producer and also as an Army Ranger. I'm just curious, what is the goal you want to see conveyed in this series, The Warfighters? Does it help people sitting at home understand just what's at stake in some of these battles?
Yeah, absolutely. The primary mission is to really bridge the soldier-civilian gap and show a more human side to these special operators. Additionally, and we didn't really know this until we started showing the show to the guys that we interviewed, and it became something that they could show their families. If they lacked the ability to articulate or give context to their experience, they're able to sit down with their families and friends and say, I may not be able to express what I did, the things I saw, but this show does a pretty good job. So let's just sit down and watch this thing together, and maybe you'll get a little more understanding of what I've given X amount of years of my life to doing.
Obviously, Peter, there are a number of stories here, and we have heard for years, and people can bear witness, that war is hell. But Peter, as you were helping to assemble this thing, was there one story or one incident that ranks as the most shocking or surprising that you cover in this series?
I mean, I don't mean to punt that question because it's a good one, and if these stories are all so remarkable to me, and if when I did Lone Survivor, I was realized that the more I got to know Marcus Luttrell, the more that I had gotten to know the Murphy family, the Dietz and the Axelson families, the more compelling that story became. I think people who saw American Sniper feel the same way about Chris and Taya Kyle, and these stories, and there's 8 of them. Whether it's Rob Guzzo or it's about a combat dog that was critically wounded in service, they really are all very unique and powerful and inspiring and heartbreaking, and kind of all of that at once. We don't have a weak episode, and I'm very proud to be able to save that. These are great shows, and you really get to know these men, and in doing so, to me, all of these episodes are quite extraordinary.
That's a point well taken, Peter. And Mike, I guess I'd turn to you. Listening to Peter talk, the common thing we see in all of these stories is uncommon valor. Now, as a Ranger, obviously you guys are doing your job, but explain to me what motivated you to become a Ranger, and what do we see in all these different stories? Is there a commonality for all these different stories involving our special forces?
Yeah, I mean, my story is, I think it's that special. I grew up with a big sense of history through my family. Read a lot about World War II. Through that, I found the Rangers, and that became something I kind of became fixated on at a young age. So I was always going to serve, regardless. As far as a commonality, it's an intangible thing that draws guys to special operations. One, to the military, period. But 2, to volunteer for special operations, because that's how it works. You have to volunteer through multiple selection processes, multiple schools. To earn something, to earn a title, to be a part of a unit. These units have huge historical lineages, Green Berets, Rangers, SEALs, Marine Raiders. I mean, all these guys. And there's something that special about those units that calls to guys, and it's a quality that, it's hard to compartmentalize it. It really is just this really special, intangible thing.
Indeed, the common virtue is uncommon valor. All of these different stories. Executive producer Peter Berg and producer and former Army Ranger Mike Baumgarten, we thank you for your time. And again, now you can watch all the episodes of the Warfighters' Real Story of True Courage tomorrow night, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern and Pacific on the History Channel. Another way to honor veterans on Veterans Day. And before you and I part ways, let's talk more about what we observe tomorrow, the 11th day of the 11th month, going back to the 11th hour. Armistice Day it was called, on that day that was supposed to be the day to end the war, that was supposed to end all wars, what was called the Great War then, what is called World War I now. Obviously it did not end war, but neither did it end the commitment of Americans to answer the call to duty. If you've worn the uniform of this country in wartime or in peacetime, several establishments across the country are saying thank you tomorrow with Veterans Day specials. Some free stuff, some meals, some discounts, but we would never discount your courage and commitment. We celebrate it tomorrow. Check advertisements and the internet for establishments in your local area. Now, tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern on America Talks Live, former New York Police Special Investigator Michael Solomon, Christian political activist Johnny Moore, and your calls. Then, tomorrow night at 8 on Newsmax Prime, Michael Patrick Flanagan and David Goodfriend, Missy Shorey, and a special tribute to our veterans. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.